Hello, my name is Dr. Maya Byfield. My business is The Phenomenal STEMist. I'm so excited to be here in Orange County because it's where I live. I live in Apopka, Florida. And I decided to make this business because I saw a need for underrepresented students to be successful in STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, math. And the best way I can do that is just provide products for parents to prepare them, whether it's a book or online STEM camps or just video podcasting. My goal is to transform this community, especially those who are underrepresented. And the way to do that is to help parents understand their children's minds and basically develop them at different stages of their lives to be prepared for a successful STEM career. Thank you so much. That's why I'm here. Hey, it's the phenomenal STEMist. How's everyone doing this afternoon, this evening? I am so excited about today's conversation. I have the regulars, Howie, Kamoy, microbiologist, physician. I have my homeboy, Bryant, who is honorary STEM, public health.
Lot of pause, like you had to remember my name. I put my name at the bottom of the line this time.
Bryant. And our comic relief. And then lastly but not least, I have a special guest. I've just met her through my brother, a young, beautiful African American physicist, y'all. Physicist. Let me explain. Her name is Dr. Linnell Williams. She got her bachelor's in physics from Wesleyan. She got her master's in physics from Fisk University. Shout out to the HBCUs out there. She got her PhD in physics from Harvard University, y'all, and she is currently a postdoctoral fellow in biophysics at Princeton University, y'all. Like, listen, give it up for Linnell.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Listen, I'm looking for physical scientists because there's a lot of biological scientists in this building.
I
And
told you, I got you. There's so many like really talented people, like so many different universities that I can connect you with. So I'm more than happy to connect you with them. Like there's
let's
all kinds
go.
of people, like Ashley Walker, the founder of Black and Astro, and so many other people.
Yes,
Honored
yes.
to be
There's more than you know. But this is a black physicist, and I'm just excited that she's on. We're talking about an interesting conversation.
here.
We're talking about nurturing leadership skills. So most of us on here is Generation X. I think. What would you classify yourself, Linnell? Maybe a millennial or an older Generation Z?
Yeah, I'm a millennial, 32.
A younger millennial, yeah, or a millennial.
I'm a
And so we're in this. What happened? How what just happened?
His screen flipped.
We are live. We are live, everybody. All right, we're gonna jump into it. We're gonna jump into talking about turn it around. Actually, I haven't heard your voices. So how about y'all talk? Go ahead, Kamoy and Bryant. Well, I heard Bryant, of course.
I just wanted to set the record straight that I'm a millennial.
Oh my bad.
Woo.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that would make sense.
Millennials.
My bad, Kamoy. I'm a young Generation X, so and you're younger than me, so yes, you would be a millennial. My bad. My bad. Or unfortunately, you are a millennial.
I couldn't tell. I thought all of y'all were just we were around the same age and like So when you said, "Oh, we're all Gen X," I was like, "Really?"
Okay.
She's borderline millennial Gen X. I'm not gonna ask her age, but she's younger than me. So because I just made Gen X. I'm 47. I'm 47 years old, and I'm proud of it.
What?
You don't believe it? Yeah, I'm 47.
I cannot.
I love it. I love saying I'm 47 because I know I don't look 47. I'm gonna kick Howard out until he gets the situation fixed. Yeah. And so I think 44-year-olds, 44 or 45-year-olds, I think 1979 or 1980, give or take. Some people say 1979, some people say 98. I was born 78, so I made it clean. But so either 40, like if you're younger than 44, you are a 45, 44, you're pretty much a millennial. Yeah, you're a millennial. Um, so Howard's almost in. Hopefully he gets his phone situated.
Things.
Turn it, Howard. Turn it back. You must have did something. What happened? Talk to me. We're gonna have to use you like that. There you go. Talk. Can you hear me? Can you talk so I can hear you? Can you say something so I can hear you?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I
All
don't,
right,
yeah, I don't know. I
you're
don't
good.
know.
You're perfect. You're perfect. When you think about your career 10 years from now, so some of y'all are millennials, some of y'all are almost retirees. What leadership role do you see yourself in? And what skills do you need to start developing today to get here? 10 years from now, where do you see yourself? So I would be 57 years old. Lord Jesus. Like I don't see myself retiring until I can see myself working forever, honestly. I'm a professor of biology. Just I introduced everybody else. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Dr. Maya Byfield, for those of you who don't know, and I'm a professor of biology. And I can see myself teaching. I don't know, but what I can say is I will not be at the height of my job description at 57, at 65, or whenever I stop retiring teaching. Um, but I think the most I can see myself. Do me a favor, turn your volumes down because I hear a little echo. Um, I can see myself running a research program. I can see myself running a business enterprise that is empowering thousands of students to be successful in STEM. That's as far as I go. I don't want to be up. I can't see myself in upper administration of any university. I feel myself doing things on my own. What do you guys think? Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
I
And
think
then
Oh, I was gonna say I'm trying to get like you. So we briefly had this conversation, but in 10 years I'll be 42, and I'm hoping that like I've always wanted to be a professor and a professor that had like a startup company. So I have like some like biotech ideas and some like pure independence and like some research ideas that I hope to like make greater impacts. Because as you know, it's like when you're doing research in academia versus industry, the sort of goals are different. Like one seems to be more product focused and the other seems to be more like pure research, trying to like do science for the sake of science focused. And so I've always wanted to do everything. So I want to be able to do both. And so in the future, I'm hoping that, I have a research lab. I'm hoping that I have like a successful company, but I also want to be also doing like these social impacts as well. So like in the past, I've always involved myself in outreach work, trying to help underrepresented minority women in STEM. And so I still see myself like continuing to contribute either financially or with, different programming, encouraging Black folks in particular to stay in STEM fields, utilize like their skill set, not just in STEM, but in other areas as well. And then providing, hopefully through this like corporation, providing like a place for people to go and try to contribute to doing science more ethically and trying to do more impactful science. So that's where I'm hoping to be. I am in a very scary transitional period in my life. It is rewarding to be a postdoc, but it's also very scary because I think it's the first time where, like, you know, I did my BA, I did my master's. Like in my BA, I knew there was going to be the master's, and after the master's, I knew it was going to be the PhD. There was always like that definite thing on the other side, and I think being a postdoc is that weird place where you're like, oh, I'm trying to figure out what that next step is going to be, and so it's a really scary place to be for me right now because it's been a long time since the sort of future really is kind of blank, and you know, depending on what next, like it really is blank, and you kind of have to manifest and work and combination of the hard work and the see where all the cards fall in the next couple of years. So yeah, that's where I see.
Well, I hope I inspire you to know that it will happen. I've been where you've been. I've been a postdoc. I've quit a postdoc. I've moved into spaces of not knowing where to go, and with the help of God, I really believe things just lined up, and you will get towards the end. Just keep pushing, keep doing your best, keep doing your best. That's what I would say. What about you guys, Brian? Where you see yourself in the next 10 years? Come on, Howie, what's up?
As a federal government worker, I like to see myself with a job. But no, seriously, I'm the type of person that just wants to help people. I'm a rung on a ladder. I never want to be at the top. I want to be a platform or stepping stone to help them get to where they're going. So sometimes it's just being real, just saying, hey, this is going to suck. But everything, you have to find a way in order to turn those negatives into tomorrow's testimony. So you got to take things one day at a time. So hopefully in 10 years, I can still do what I love to do, which is interact with my workers on a more intimate level, you know, pouring into them as others has poured into me, because as we build a work community, then when there are times of struggle, you know, we're able to lean upon each other, because today I might be fine. Tomorrow I might be having my bad day, but because I poured into someone else and because I told someone else, I'm not trying to fight you. I'm not trying to, the only person I'm competing against is myself. So I'm always going to win. You know, person, you should only compete against yourself so that you're always going to win. So it's just encouragement. So hopefully in 10 years, I'm still in a place where I can still do that.
Love it, love it. You know, this thing called a disc assessment. Have you all done the disc? Y'all know about the disc assessment? Oh, I encourage you, especially now, Linnell, to do a disc assessment. I'll send it to you, a link. And you know, there are different rungs. There are different types of leaders. So you have the D, which is like the pilot of a plane. You have the I, which is like the stewardess of a plane. You have the S, which is like the grounds crew that helps. You have the C, which is like the air traffic controller. Each part is necessary for flight to happen. Each part is a leader in their own rights. Even the grounds crew is a leader. It is a leader. So you're sounding to me, Bryant, like a leader from the perspective of grounds crew. And you know who you are, and you don't feel you have to.
I'm a
You
ground crew. I couldn't be in air traffic control. You know,
not.
so I'm just the guy that's waving flags.
And without you, the plane does not land and get to its destination.
Pretty soon, AI will have little things that will. I'd rather be moving luggage. Luggage, at least they get to still use their hands and stuff.
Ground crew is luggage too. Ground crew is all of that.
I'm the flag wearer. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Somebody just, you know what? Leave me alone. Just leave me out of this.
You're a leader. You're a leader in your own right. Come on. Where you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Retired.
I hear you. So you're gonna work your butt off for the next 10 years so that you can retire.
I know, I'm joking. Not retired, but having a little bit more freedom of my time. Right now, as an employed physician, it can get pretty tough. I don't have a lot of my own time, so it would be nice to scale back on that and and then be able to be more involved. Pretty passionate about mentorship. But
Mm,
mentorship is great in encouraging people, encouraging young people to, go into the field of medicine and also kind of helping them navigate it. But one of the ways I really want to help out is with um, money. They
Mhm.
need money, and even now more so than before, money is becoming less and less available,
mhm.
especially to those who are disadvantaged. So yes, I intend to work my butt off a lot, but and so a lot of this money is not necessarily going to come out of my pocket, but just helping students figuring out ways to pay for this education because sometimes they really want to do it, but they're just so
Yeah.
discouraged about getting through it, and they don't know, may not necessarily know what resources are available for them. So I would like to be able to free up more of my time to help with that aspect of it.
Awesome, awesome, and you're gonna do it. So you're gonna see yourself in leadership in the context of being a mentor, and a sponsor. It's sounding like,
Yeah.
and that's powerful. It's necessary. Howie, what's up? Where do you see yourself 10 years
I'm
in
like
terms of leadership?
crashing this house for the holidays, so she's kind of like, I can't tell her how to operate at her own house when I'm on a call. But so yeah, I mean, so I am in the process of transitioning. Um, actually outside of STEM, but that's a whole other topic. But for the time, if I were to consider what my next 10 years, initially, what I was feeling my next 10 years would have been, um, it definitely would have been. I think I'm sort of in the same boat where I don't think I never had a huge fancy for management. Um, and for those of us in STEM who are within an organization, for me, it's federal. When you're within an organization, a lot of times the passion arises to say, well, how can we improve? The way we're doing things here in our particular, neck of the woods, whether it be particular, in my cases, a lab environments and so forth. How can we, improve efficiency? How can we improve, just the way that we lead, our organizational leadership, our organizational culture, our, the way that the type of environment that we're producing for new people to come in who were like me when I first came in. And so that's something I really saw as important, as pivotal. And like I said, usually when I say things like that, that sounds like you want to be in management, right? But not necessarily. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can impact those type of areas, such as the mentorship. For me, it was mentorship. For me, it's training, being a part of helping folk on board, helping them understand the culture of the way we do things, and sort of positioning themselves so that they can be, whatever their next 10 years is going to be. And so I really liked playing that sort of role um, for the ones who are just like me coming in and positioning themselves. So if that's the environment that you're in, if that's the sort of work environment that you're in, that's a role that you can play as well. And it's sort of inevitable, especially when you've been in and you're like 10 years, until retirement. It's for the most part, you are that, sorry, so to speak, dinosaur. You are a relic. You are, one of those folk who've been there, done that, and whether you appreciate it, I know that's something I experienced, where the people who were in that role when I came in, whether they whether they accepted it or not, that's who they were to me. Whether they accepted it or not, they were the people who I was asking, for this or asking for that. And for some people, it took a while for them to accept that. Um, because there are a lot of people who were just like, nah, don't bother me. Like, I'm doing me right now. And until they started to recognize inevitably what role they were in. And I respected them. I respected them for wherever they were and whatever they were doing, but I just said I'm gonna do it different. When I reach that stage, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna be someone who people can come to and feel comfortable about that.
But I think that's part of the what you just described is what holds research back. I really don't understand this lack of interest in developing the skill sets in people who are coming behind you so that we can do the science better and like make better discoveries. Like people have already documented many times already that like there's like the amount of novel research that's like happening is sort of plateauing, and it seems to be research and science tends to be more about the competition and feeling smart than it is about actually focusing on what is the scientific discoveries. Because if we were focused on the latter, we would want people to be good, we would want people to be trained, we would want people to be thinking deeply about these kinds of problems, and then investing in their sort of skill sets so that you all can get to the answers faster and come up with new things that you want to discover. So I think that's probably one of my biggest tips with how we do science in general, even on the academic side, is
It's
the
foundational. We're evolutionary in the sciences for the most part, and unfortunately, it's a scarcity mindset. It's like if I help you, I lose out. That's not how it is in a creation mindset. When there's abundance,
and it's like lose
it's
out
like
on what, right? It's like I said, it's more important to get the attention and the praise and the gold star and the I'm
yeah,
perceived to be smart than actually being smart, because it's harder for people to be smart on their purely on their merit because they actually came up with something new and novel, right?
right.
Like it's better to sort of, I don't know, people use this competition to sort of hide, especially like, I mean, like I also want to just throw out there, like we're all Black on this call too, and I
Mhm.
think that there's also a layer of not wanting people like us to outshine folks who might be in specific areas as well. And I think one
Mhm.
thing that I have noticed is that when I've encountered that kind of behavior, there seemed to be more resistance
Mhm.
with wanting to teach people like me certain skills, because it
Mhm.
distorts people's mindsets around what it means to be smart. Because how dare someone like me be just as capable of doing a specific technique, maybe even doing it better, right? And it's a very sort of layered thing that's holding what we say we want to do, which is the science, back in general.
Yeah, Howie talks about that quite a bit. Can we talk about what you do now since you're not working there no more? But anyway, I'm not gonna. You might want to go back for consultancy. Let's say, um, he talked about that all the time. And if you think about back in the day when in the movie Malcolm X, or one of the movies. No. It was actually, I don't like him, but Ben Carson's movie when he scored the top score, whatever. His teacher lectured all of his white colleagues, his classmates, and said, "You should be ashamed of yourself for letting him outdo you." Like it's like like they're trained to feel that we are inferior a lot of the times. So by making you increase, you're actually diminishing them, and that's what we have to actually fight against. And that's hard. That's draining, especially when you're in a level of training. For instance, you're a postdoctoral fellow, you are in training, and you got to face that. It's tough, but you just push through. You're going to be better for it. You're going to be better for it. And that's all I got for you, unfortunately. It's a
Yeah,
struggle.
yeah, I
People,
know. And I know that you all have been through it, but at the end of the day, like they're not, one thing I remind myself is, they must not be as good as they think they are if they have to spend so much energy holding folks like that look like us back in the first place. You know,
mediocre.
you must not be as smart as you think you are if you really have to spend all of this energy to prevent other people, whether it's not even just Black folks, but just people in general.
Oh man, I lost her. You frozen? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? That was powerful right there. What she was saying. Is it me that's frozen or y'all that's frozen?
I think she's
No,
back now.
it's back.
She's back
Go ahead,
now.
Linnell. Finish.
Sorry,
You were frozen.
my connection disconnected. That was essentially it.
I'm trying to land you home. Since that's my new job now.
Go ahead. Finish your statement. You're back.
Oh, okay. I don't know the last thing you said, but I was essentially saying that, in general, if you have to spend all this time preventing other people, creating obstacles for other people, you're not as good as you think you
Not
are.
as good as you think
That's
you are.
essentially what I was trying to say.
Yeah. All right. You're right. Next question now. In STEM fields, technical expertise often come first, but leadership can determine how far you go. How can emerging professionals balance being good at their craft, their skill set, right? While also building leadership capacity. Like I skipped the first question a little bit. Like what skill do you need? What skill would you need for leadership capacity, and how could you balance creating that? So I'll go first. I feel like when I was got trained, I got professional development training in the DISC assessment. For instance, there was a in my organization there was a leadership academy, and I applied for the leadership academy, got in, and I got trained in leadership. I did both of them. I did the part 1 and part 2. That's where I did we did team building and all. When in school all we did was learn all the way up to my PhD. I hadn't like they didn't give us a lot of training because we had to learn so much STEM. But when I got a job, I looked for personal development, professional development, and I think one of the major things is identity, knowing your type of leadership skills. Like for instance, I'm a D, so everything I do, I focus in on the vision. I don't try to get down in the nitty gritty details of data and analytics and support. I don't want to support anybody like Bryant does, right? But I can give a vision, and I can be who I was created to be. And the first way you do that is by having the knowledge. Like who am I? Like what is my personality? What is my leadership style? What about you guys? How can you balance your physical skills and at the same time build leadership capacity? Like, what skill do you need at the level of leadership? Crick, crick, crick,
Yeah,
crick,
yeah.
crick.
No, no, no. This is. Go ahead. Go ahead. Come on.
No, I was gonna say that I actually think it's really important to point out that you don't want to try to skip steps. If you are gonna be a leader in your field, you have to learn the field first. And I find that, especially maybe this is aging me, but when I start to say, a lot of the younger people,
Yeah, you sound like a Generation Xer to me, but
technically I'm a Xennial, right? I'm an older millennial, but I'm a little bit of the best of both worlds.
Mhm.
But yes, I there's something about this instant gratification that people kind of want to skip steps, and you should not skip steps. Even though in our education coming up, we wish we had a little bit more instruction on leadership and things like that. I also think that us being kind of forced to focus on learning the skill first, and then later on, learning leadership skills. I think that was actually kind of worked out for the best,
Gotcha.
because how many times do we see people in leadership roles and they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
So I think my advice would be to just make sure you're not skipping the steps, to learn your craft first, and then learning how to be a leader and to teach others and to bring others behind you.
So it's timing. It's
Yeah.
timing. Got you. Howie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to point out why it's difficult for the majority of us here, to answer that question. Because I know what the answer is not. It's STEM.
Wow.
It's so this is the big challenge. This is the challenge that we find in our STEM communities, that even though what Kamal mentioned happens, and a lot of times, unfortunately, that's more like a what's the word I'm looking for? Oh man, it'll come to me. But people get positions for whatever reasons, right? And not necessarily for the
Nepotism.
now nepotism. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Like a lot of times it's nepotism. But in our environment, we have such a we value
Skill set.
expertise so much. We
Yeah.
value expertise so much and skill set so much and knowledge base and ability so much that it actually doesn't happen. I don't in my environment, I haven't seen it happen as much where it's just like, oh, that person right there don't know. Normally you hear folks say they say it because they're like, oh, that person don't know as much as me. You know what I mean? Like they're like, how'd they get that? They don't know as much as I do, and everyone knows it. Everyone knows how much I know. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of times in our environment, it really is based on skill. And then what happens is to counter that aspect, when we push the pendulum to the other side, we go fully into skill. And a lot of times the managers have no leadership skills. They have no they have very little ability to actually lead. And so and it's not only that, like that's not so bad. Not having the ability is not so bad because like you said, we spend so much time in our training to learn our field, right? And I was going to ask you, Kamoy, what do you mean by field necessarily? Because what I've found also is that you can have one of the things you really ought to in your development so that you don't miss any steps. In knowing the field, you sort of have to know the business of the field. Like that's an area that you really have to, you have to hone in on because a lot of times that we're not privy to that. We are just doing we learn to do the expertise, we learn the skills, abilities, and so forth, and we hang our hat on that, but we don't necessarily know the business, the budgeting, all these different aspects. I think you get that in your along your PhD route because everything is based on budgeting, right? And that's also in organizations. But then, because I know from a government standpoint, absolutely budgeting, budgeting, budgeting. How much does the lab have to spend for this, in the next quarter? All of these type of things. And how do we address that when we're running low and we're like it's that sort of things that
Mm,
come into leadership, come
management,
into
leadership.
managing and leadership. Now,
Mm,
let me correct myself because you hit the nail on the head. That's more so management and not actually leadership. And so people can know the skills, people can have the understanding of the managing of the budgets, etc. Still don't know how to lead folk. Still don't know how to lead folk. So, in answer to your question, I would say start where you're at. Like, start where you're at. The stage where you are in your career, you will always have an opportunity in some way or form to engage in some form of leadership. You will always be. So whether you are leading mentorship and so forth for people there's always people who are right but coming right behind where you were where you're at, right? There's always people who are going the same pathway, are on the same pathway that you're on. So you always have an opportunity to, let's say for instance, give back. You always have an opportunity to look back at where you're coming from and help those people along the way on the same pattern and or pathway. And that itself is an opportunity to exercise leadership skills if you don't, if you're trying to hone in on that. And then look for it, ask for it. Like sometimes you can see it, it's obvious where leadership is needed, and people just don't want to step up because they want to stay in the microscope and they don't want to actually do any of these other things that come up. I know my wife, she does dentistry, and I remember when she was in school, in dentistry school, an opportunity came up for the student body leadership. And I think it was a secretary position that came up of her graduate of her class, right? And she decided she's not very, this is Simone in her very quiet stage. Now she's a leader. She's a leader in her own right. And that's something that there was a stretch for her to say that
mhm.
while she's in her studies, she's going to try out for this position, this sort of political position in the school. And she tried out, and she didn't expect to get it, and she ended up getting it. And so just stepping out of your comfort zone, you will always, you will always need, it will always be a plus for us in STEM. I'm gonna put it out there. It will always be a plus for us in STEM, especially us in STEM, to people of color in STEM, as minorities to garner some form of leadership skills because STEM itself needs it. It's
Mm,
not even so much it's not even so much that we need, it's like it's STEM itself needs it. So you that's a niche in STEM and will
that
always
pushes
be
above.
that
Yeah.
brings that causes you to rise up because you have it.
Because STEM people, black, white, Asian, they don't like leading people. They don't like rocking with people. A lot of them don't like rocking with people. So if you have this the skill set that you can actually move people, you can support people, you can give people vision, you can get people to follow. Like if you can do that, and that is not done in the lab, that is done. I'm glad you said that to all my students that out there that are watching. A try out for a club. So most of the clubs that I run, I have trouble getting leaders. People
Yeah.
may want to come to the events, but it's very difficult to get a president, a vice president, a secretary, a treasurer. It's very difficult.
But I think part of the issue is not
not,
everyone. Yeah.
one second, not to knock Simone, but am I surprised? Because I,
Mhm.
nobody wants to be it. So you'll easily get it, right? I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Go ahead, Linnell.
No, I was agreeing with everything you just said and everything everyone else just said. I think that you all highlighted the hard technical skills you need for leadership, but there are all these like soft skills as well that you have to like also keep into consideration as well. And I think someone hinted earlier about some of those soft skills. I think part of the issue is, in general, everyone isn't a leader, right? I think that one of the skills that you probably need to develop in like trying to become a leader is a level of self-awareness, and that self-awareness needs to lead towards like, well, what are the areas I genuinely need to grow in particular. So like, let's say that you are someone that wants to start a program. If you know that you've never done this before, where do you sort of seek out the help that you need to develop the skills that you need to perform that, kind of program? But not everyone is going to, I think, the reality is not everyone wants to do leadership, and not everyone's sort of like inclined to do that kind of thing. But I do 100% agree what was said about leadership sort of popping up randomly, because especially during my PhD, because there was this one time where people were making comments about, oh, there are no Black women in physics. They don't want to do physics. That's why we don't have any in our program. And so I essentially stood up at that moment and was basically like, I will literally find them for you. And I will have them
Mm,
apply to this program, and I will show them with the skills that I already have currently, teach them how to apply for, graduate school in a way that will make their applications competitive. And there were a handful of students that had gotten into my program. I got into my PhD program and other programs, across the country, because we, ran this, like, did all of this programming to help underrepresented minority women in STEM apply for these kinds of things. So it does pop up, but I think when those opportunities pop up, I think that there's a level of bravery you also have to have as well, because there's always consequences to
yep.
sort of performing certain actions of leadership. Like, you're sacrificing something, whether it's going to be your reputation, whether it's going to be your time, whether it's going to be resources. Like, there's a level of willingness, self-awareness, and trying to develop the skills you need to perform the things that you need to do, a level of willingness to be to sacrifice, because taking a leadership role in general is a sacrifice in some way. And also having, some level of open-mindedness around criticism in areas you need to grow. Because one area I learned in running this program, I really needed to grow, was in these more technical managerial kinds of, things, and how to sort of deal with conflicts on the team. And that was something I had never had to deal with before, because I was always working in a lab. I was always a student. I wasn't used to managing 15 people. And like, when someone doesn't like something and someone doesn't care about something, or someone said something, but we still need to get the job done, how do you sort of intervene and get the things that you need to get done? I will say that I am super disappointed in, and I agree with everything that was said about like the lack of STEM community sort of helping develop these kinds of skills, is the fact that there is so little conversation and so little sort of opportunities sort of naturally incorporated in the education to help people sort of develop these sort of soft and hard skills in leadership in particular. Because it's I would say like severely lacking and very much needed. But sometimes people just don't even know what opportunities are available to even like jump in the first place.
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna address that, but I want to give Brian the opportunity to jump in. He's been a little quiet over there. You look like you wanted to say something, and then I'm gonna say what you have to say something in regards to that shortly.
For those in the STEM community, is it okay to not be the best at something? Because for most of my exposure around STEM, they were quiet, determined, straightforward. They were laser focused. It's like not being the best was unheard of. So, how do you search for leadership when you walk into a room
Yeah,
already with the mindset that I am just as, if not better than you? So, what do you have to offer me? Because whatever you know, is written down somewhere and I can just get it from a journal, from some type of manual. So like what leadership can are y'all really looking for if you have been
yeah,
groomed
yeah.
to believe that there's no one out there better than you when you get to start working on the field that you're in?
Mhm.
Like how can you find a leader when you already are the benchmark?
Well, it depends on the skill set. Well, just in my opinion, it depends on what needs to be done because you might be the best, I don't know, you know, person to study. I study algae, right? And you might be an extreme expert in algae, right? And you know, may be able to like perform a very specific function. But I think this kind of goes back to sort of what I said before in terms of my annoyance of trying to do novel science. A lot of times these like more novel discoveries come from the people who push against the grain, come from the people who challenge, come from the people who stand up. And that is a very scary process. I've done a little bit of that like along my journey. And like there's always been, like I said, like some level of either reputation, you know, destruction, like sacrifice, and those kinds of things that come, you know, come with it, especially when you are a Black person in STEM in particular, because there are so many stereotypes about our level of competency. And so I think that even if, you know, you are the best at what you do in particular, I think that, like I said, like developing an awareness that you're the best at that one thing, but not necessarily these other things that need to, you know, how do you sort of rally a program? How do you sort of direct a program? How do you sort of create science that is impactful to the environment? Like there are all these open-ended questions that we are not attending to, because if we did have the best people and we are, you know, the best leaders, et cetera, we'd solve, you know, I think we would have solved all these problems already, right? And there are so many problems that we haven't solved, and that is evidence of the, you know, the fact that we're not as good as we think we are, because we're not allowing, you know, for opportunities for people to stand up and challenge things and do things that are new and be able to develop the, you know, other people that have other skills to work together to solve larger problems. Um,
As soon as we get used to failure and accept failure,
mhm.
we'll be better leaders. Brian, I think we hate failure.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
We've been trained that forget failure. That's an F, like a B. Especially the high, like the physicians, the PhDs who have to, because you're competing with they put an air of competition to get into these institutions, and so you can't fail. But then once you get into graduate school, it's huge, lots
It's
of,
all failure.
it's all
It's
failure.
all failure. And the thing is, it's like the more you learn and know, the more you realize you don't know. And so it's like when I think of people who think that they know everything and they think they are the best, it means they don't know enough. Because the more you learn, you'll realize how much you really don't know and how much really needs to be uncovered and how much really needs to be done. Uh, so, you know, these people who have that mentality, like I said, y'all are not as good as you think you are. Like, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I also
Go ahead,
think that
Camille.
one of the characteristics of a great leader is understanding that you don't necessarily have to be the best
Mhm.
in whatever your skill set is in order to be a good leader. Recognizing the strengths in others, yes, and then being able to put all those things together to make, to elevate, whatever it is that you're studying, working on, I think that is what makes a good leader. So you don't have to be the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a sense of I can do this, right? No, and a sense of confidence in your skill set, but you don't necessarily have to think that you're the best or be the best in order to be a great leader.
But
You
see, I
think
feel like I'm
And
hearing about management versus leadership because a manager is a person that takes all of our five different skills. We bring one person in who could maximize it where we're all going forward. Where I've always thought of a leader as someone that when I can't do it, when no one else can't do it, this person can get us through on their own merit, their own ability, and we gravitate towards that because he or she is going where we want to go. I'm hearing more of a management than a leadership. And so in
wow,
STEM,
that's
are y'all
interesting.
looking more for a manager of your skill set, or are you looking for that person that will get you across the finish line because you've exhausted all of your own capabilities?
Mhm.
Wow,
And I
Correct.
think we
Correct.
like both.
Wow.
I was just gonna say,
Correct. So
oh,
so that so that's the challenge. So that's the challenge. It's a challenge. It's a clash of fields. It's a
Mhm.
clash of fields. You're absolutely on point. This is the challenge that I'm talking about. So we are academia heavy, right? So we spend a lot of time in academia, right? And where it's about, you need to achieve, 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 achieve. And whereas, let's say a business student um, is taught from early on the benefits of failure for the field that they'll be navigating in. You see, so STEM, we're used to being leveraged. STEM is used to we're used to our knowledge being leveraged for the purpose of, accomplishing goals here and there. You have scientific advisors. We're scientific advisor to a criminal case, scientific advisors to a law situation, scientific advisors to a business, etc. We're trained to be professionals, to be the best and have the best and in whatever field that we occupy, that we say we want to become a professional at. And then those skills are then leveraged. So what happens, that's why it's tough to talk about it unless you're talking about it. I mean, for your from what, for like your question and so forth, it's tough to process it until you get into a business and organization. Now you have an organization where you have all of these various people with STEM backgrounds being utilized, and this organization has to move forward. And then all of a sudden now you got a ton of folk who are like, man, I just want to stay in this microscope until I reach that point where it's 10 years till my retirement. And now maybe then I'll go into management because then I don't want to at that point I don't want to look in the microscope anymore. I'll manage people now at that point. I'll
and it's
spend my
not, and it's
last
not lead, and it's not lead people.
and you've never done any you haven't processed any form of leadership skill whatsoever. You haven't looked in that direction at all because you didn't want to. So it's not that, yes, like people need to there's people who are natural leaders, right? So there are people who are natural leaders, but then there's another population of STEM folk who uh they can lead, but they've never been taught, like they just never learned how to lead. And so they've never been exposed to the tools or saw value because our community doesn't doesn't value soft skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't value soft skills. So we've never actually learned. So you have people who actually will be great leaders, would be great leaders, even with their attention to detail and so forth, and all these other things that are strong in STEM, they'd be great leaders. They're the people who everyone else talks to when they're not talking, when they can't talk to their manager. Like they're the other people. They're the people who everybody else talks to and processes through their career, etc. On the bench. That's that person who doesn't want to become a leader. But if they were given the tools, they would be one of the best leaders within the organization. So it's that clash of fields We're taught up, we're bred up to be the best, know the best. What
And
happens
then
when
but then Howie, hold on, and then
Mhm.
be managers. I think this is
And be
a
managers? Yeah.
critical point that Bryant is saying. We're taught to do the analytical skills and then manage. So basically, it's to analytically manage
To
people, not lead people.
No, you
There's a
manage the
difference.
skills. You're a professional at the skills. So you're all you're doing is managing people's skills, and that's
Right.
not leading
and
people.
and what if that's why we're not going places that we need to go forward in because we're just skill set and management and not leadership. I
But
mean, it's
you'd have to
profound.
be humble or realize that I am not all that, and that this person has what I lack, and I'm willing to let them lead, let them influence me, let
Me.
them go
Yes.
before me, and I follow their path instead of I'm on their path, but I'm kind of trying to find a better path because I've been taught that in science there's one way to do it, but then I've got to deconstruct it to see if I can find a more efficient way.
Right.
Mhm. Yep.
When are y'all able to just not be analytical
Right.
and just be
What do you
human?
mean?
How can we not
What
be?
do you
That's
mean?
who we are.
What
I don't
exactly
know if
do you
that's
mean by
possible.
that? Like,
I mean, I got to turn it off sometime in order for someone to
but
lead.
you know how that happens? It happens via pecking order. We and that happens to us throughout our educational experience. Throughout our educational experience, we learn who's the best. We learn this year, we learn next year, we learn throughout the entire school term educational experience who's the best in our environment. And so you learn how to navigate that. Like you know who's the best at whatever, whatever, whatever. That's the natural progression of it. So even when you get to the organizational level, the organizational level, you know who you gonna follow and who you not gonna follow anywhere. You've already determined in your mind, okay, that person knows their stuff, but we can't if you but you'll follow them off a cliff. I mean, like you're gonna if you follow them, you're gonna end up off a cliff. And that person over there, they don't have it down, but they're balanced enough. So I'm just saying it happens through natural progression in our
Do you
environment
really
where we
follow them
know.
off of a cliff, or do you analyze just the
No, I meant
dangers
if you
before you go off that cliff?
no, I meant if you follow them, you'll end up off a cliff. That's what I meant.
Okay,
That's what I
okay.
meant. Yeah, like
All right,
that
let's
person right
move on.
there. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's move on because we have a lot more questions to go, and it's we already 8 o'clock. So man, we're going really good. This is a great conversation, y'all. And I do want to get all of the questions in. We don't have to really elaborate on all of them, but at least let's talk about. Many of us didn't see leaders who looked like us growing up. How has representation or the lack of it shaped your view of yourself as a leader?
I think that when I was at Wesleyan, I thought I was the only Black physicist on Earth because I was like one of the few, if not only, like Black people in my program. And I came from, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee originally. And I think when I was trying to figure out whether or not I was going to major in physics, and I think just one day, in the midst of me crying, decided whether or not I was going to stay or not. I just Googled Black physicist, and I found Sylvester Gates. And I think at the time he was on Obama's like African Americans for Education, like one of those like committees. And I found him and a slew of other Black physicists, and I just cold emailed them.
Wow.
I still have the email to this day, and I show it to undergrads all the time. I sent like 30 people a long email about what my experience had been in undergrad, why I was experiencing it, and they all responded, including Dr. Gates responded, Professor Gates responded with all of the support and all of this sort of understanding about like why people from certain backgrounds, struggle through certain fields, et cetera. And for me, it was like one of the many sort of examples of people that looked like me really wrapping their arms around me and ensuring that I was able to survive through. And I still have those people to this day. I have plenty of mentors that I call up and, continue to talk to because it can be an extremely lonely journey. At least that's how my journey has been in terms of being in the field of like physics and biophysics in particular as a Black woman. It's been very isolating, and you deal with a lot of these sorts of characters, and everyone wants to be the best, and no one wants to be, wants to be wrong, etc. And it just holds all these things back. So I think having Black mentors in STEM has probably been the most influential and most helpful part of my journey, which is why I am always so open when I can and have the bandwidth to talk to other Black women and other Black men and other Black folks in general who want to pursue like physics or fields like mine.
Yeah, we gotta be the leadership.
Mhm.
I grew up with 7 physicians in my family, so I don't have that issue. I saw leadership all throughout my family, um and so I aspired, and so I really believe that my job is to show there are a lot, so we can always say there. I love, Linnell, that you keep on saying they are there. So instead of perpetuating the myth that there's none, they're there. So let's try to get them. So
You
shout
gotta
out to
select them.
my YouTube channel. I have a whole series, STEM Like a Man, STEM Her Story, where countless phenomenal STEMists I'm interviewing. And if you want to be a physician, if you want to be a dentist, if you want to be a emergency physician, you want to be a engineer, a software engineer, an environmental engineer, all of that is in the video. It's critical. What about you guys? Anybody have to say anything about that? How is the lack of it shaped your view of yourself as a leader? No. Are we moving on to the next question?
Yeah, I didn't feel like I had a lack, so
Yeah. I wanted to say that I do think that in general, STEM has a really bad way of portraying it as
Yeah.
it's because there's a reason why people are like, oh, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be this, I want to be that, because these are just like cooler to kids, right? And so like I think there's been a lot of efforts, to try to incorporate STEM into schools, but we have a long way before we sort of break down the barriers that allow kids to also just think that it's an interesting career that they would like to pursue or very early on. Yeah.
Yeah, we're there. We're there. So maybe we need to
Right.
stop perpetuating the myth that we're not there, because maybe it's just that we're only 12% of the population, and so you're
Yeah.
only going to see, unfortunately, it's 7% of PhDs, but that's not that far from 10%. We make it seem like there is 1% or 0%. No, we're
Mhm.
7% of us out here with PhDs in the sciences. You feel me? So we just gotta push that. So maybe that's what it is. We have seen a lot of representation, and that's why we're in it. All right, here's the next question. What's one leadership mistake you've made or witnessed that's taught you a valuable lesson about leading people?
doing it for the wrong reason.
All right, elaborate.
So sometimes people feel like, oh, I want to be a leader because, I see this person doing it. They have all the fame, the money, that kind of thing. And I, especially if you're in a particular field that really requires that you're passionate about what you do. And if you are just going into it for, the money or the fame or the power that it brings,
Yeah.
you're going to end up making some bad decisions and probably hurting people in the process.
Yeah, one. I agree totally what you're saying. You're right, and one of the mistakes I've seen and made, communication, right? The way you communicate, number one, especially when you're placed on a pedestal, what you say matters just way more. How you say it matters way more than somebody else over here saying the same thing. It won't matter as much. Um, or the lack thereof of communication, just not saying anything, not giving. That's not me, but that's what I can say what I failed at. But I've also what I've heard. I'm hearing a lot of echo. Somebody turn the volume down. In terms of just not saying anything. So I don't know what's going on. I that's one of my biggest beefs about leadership when I don't feel like I'm communicated to. Anybody else?
Yeah.
So you go ahead, you know.
I was going to say, I had to learn that you're going to be the bad guy sometimes and that you can't please everyone. So that was the biggest thing I learned.
Yeah.
Because I think I used to struggle a lot with trying to please every single person on the team, make sure everyone's happy, make sure everyone agrees with what we're doing, and sort of wrapping my head around the fact that you will be the villain in someone's story at some point, and it is what it is. To move forward is something that I had to practice and sort of learn how to do without sort of taking it super personally and as a result or taking it personally or internalizing it in a way that caused me to feel like, oh, I'm horrible at this. It's just some people are just not going to be pleased.
Valuable lesson. Valuable lessons.
Good to once you realize that, right? It's like,
Mhm.
you're just gonna be upset with me. I think honestly, telling someone that they have an option that you're not going to give them, being disingenuous, is a bad leadership trait. Like just saying, "Hey, we got choices." No, there is no choice. This is what it is. And we have to realize people are resilient. They will get over it. They will be upset. That's a natural emotion. They will maybe get quiet, lash out. It's the human aspect. But as leaders, as our wonderful guest said, they're going to have to, you're going to have to be okay with that. So I think really just if a leader's not being genuine, and just giving false hope that we have choices, then that's a bad leadership skill.
Yeah, we have choices. We have choices. All right. Last question. Last question. This has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate all of you for coming on and like sharing this valuable information to the people. Actually, there's a question on the line, so I don't want to I want to make sure I don't forget to show it. For young listeners who don't feel like natural leaders, what are some small steps they can take to grow leadership muscle in their current environment, work, school, community service? So I think we talked about that. Number one, clubs, school clubs, lots of them. Um, Anybody else have any suggestions?
Yeah, when local opportunities come up, don't be afraid to engage and try it out. There's no better time to grow than the now.
Mhm.
Like, when an opportunity comes up to try something new, to stretch
Do it.
yourself just a little bit, just go ahead and do it, especially in your youth. But I don't want to limit it to when you're young. Like there's always an opportunity. When looking back now, hindsight, I'm like, yeah, there was so many different opportunities that came up. A handful I took, and there was some other ones that came up that would have stretched me, but that I really, wish I would have taken advantage of. Um, so when opportunities come up, just take if you have the bandwidth and it's just something you're teeter-totter, like if your only reason for not doing it is thinking that you're not, like it's not for you, or you can't do it, you don't have the or you don't have the ability to do it. Like if you try and you get it, guess where the abilities are going to come from? Like that's where the opportunity is going to provide the abilities, so, and the skill set.
Yeah, yeah. Rodney says, when African Americans lead in STEM, we're not just filling jobs, we're shaping the future. It's about building wealth, challenging systems, and making sure our communities are part of the innovation, not just impacted by it. Leadership means power. I'm assuming this week. Power, purpose, and representation where it matters most.
Mhm.
Love it, love it. Maurice says there's a book called When Everyone Leads. That's powerful. It talks about leadership being an activity, not a position or authority. If it's an activity, then it's available to all of us. And I think that's what Brian is trying to push, and we got to give people the leeway to do that and try to stop competing with people for leadership. That's powerful. Rochelle, how you doing? Happy Sunday. We do Juneteenth in this neighborhood right here. We don't do July 4th. I'm just playing. Kind of, I'm not, but really appreciate you telling us to like, subscribe, and share. Shout out to Rochelle from California, big supporter of Phenomenal STEMist. Michelle Ali, Jonice Caleb, what's up? Keep an open mind. Everything doesn't have to be discipline specific. Many leadership skills are transferable. These are gems to Dr. Jonice Caleb from Dr. You know, a lot of us work for the government. I notice a lot of us work for. Maybe it's time for us to start building our own stuff.
Mhm.
Not to throw any shade, but um, we help others, we empower others. But I feel like there's going to be an attack on us when we work for the government, and I want us to start leading through building.
Creating our own entities. I mean, that's kind of the wavelength I'm on currently. So like a lot of the, and I'm happy to talk about this more at another time, but a lot of what I think that we're not doing enough, especially as Black scientists in particular, is leveraging a lot of the skill sets that we have across our different fields. And I like the comment about not being discipline specific, because I'm a physicist, but I'm working with a lot of biologists. I study algae, and having that sort of multidisciplinary mindset actually helps create new technologies. And so we need to be getting a little bit more creative. Like, look at what has happened, right? We've exposed a huge amount of gaps in our dependence on, things like federal funding, things like, just various institutions. And so being more creative about how we do science, how we fund science, how we sort of train people to do science, and what that cycle looks like is something that I think that we can leverage, considering that we do have a lot more numbers than we used to have. I think in the field of physics, like, we're still way sub 0.5%, kind of folks, but there's still a good amount of us. And I think that, like, it's I think a good time for us to start leveraging the wealth we have accumulated, the knowledge that we have accumulated, the sort of connections that we've accumulated as a community, to start building these kinds of opportunities that are specific to developing folks and developing science in our communities.
It's time to leverage. It's time to leverage. That's the word that Howard used a while back. Remember, Howie? Leverage. It's
Still use
time.
it. Still use it.
Leverage. It's time to leverage. All right. Like, anyway, guys. Whew, what an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for joining. We do this once a month. And listen, you're always welcome to come back. I'm gonna keep you on the email list. So I am the phenomenal STEMist, and so are they. I forgot to do my commercial. Hold on. Get your child ready. Since I need to be leveraging this restream right here on YouTube. If you have a child and you want to prepare them for STEM from the womb to the university, get my book. You can find it on my website, www.tenyear.me. And my STEM camp starts tomorrow. My STEM camp starts tomorrow, y'all. If you want to prepare your kids in STEM, you go to I have a new website, www.tenyear.me. It's no longer Phenomenal STEMist. Let me change this right now. Hold on, let me get it. www.tenyear.me. I'll put it on as my yeah. Did it go away? Let's try it again. My STEM camp starts tomorrow. We finished our June camp. We got a preparatory STEM camp in July. So if you want to prepare your kids, you can get the book, or you could go to www.tenyear.me for more information. One more time. I am the phenomenal STEMist, and so are they. Everybody wave to the camera. Good night,